Hello, I'm Leonardo Puglisi. It's Sunday, the 26th of June. You're watching 6 News. Our top stories tonight: the US Supreme Court votes to remove the constitutional right to abortion, striking down the landmark Roe v. Wade case and paving the way for states to ban abortion, including in cases of rape and incest. With the reaction tonight flooding in from all over the world, including here in Australia. Plus, an attack on the Crossbench, anger from independents, One Nation, Jackie Lambie Network and more as Anthony Albanese cuts the amount of personal staff from 4 down to just 1 for crossbenchers, and a move one MP says shows that the PM doesn't support genuine debate and scrutiny. And later,
our objective is not so much, every party forms to get people elected, absolutely, but I think our focus is more of having an influence in the outcome.
A 6 News exclusive, we speak to the Deputy Leader of the Freedom Party, who says his new party's focus is about having an influence in the Victorian election outcome more than actually winning seats themselves, as Labor decides on new ministers following the resignations of 4 senior MPs. But what's the real story behind the retirements, and is it all just a media beat-up? Good evening. The United States Supreme Court has voted 6-3 to remove the constitutional right to abortion, striking down the landmark Roe v. Wade case and paving the way for states to fully ban abortion. Tonight, new details are being revealed on how some states are responding, including with abortion bans, even in cases of rape and incest. Reaction is still flooding in from across the world and in the US, of course, tonight, including here at home, as thousands protest the decision some say is one of the darkest moments in the history of America. Earlier I caught up with our US correspondent Jackson Gosnell for the latest developments.
Leo, the constitutional right to abortion is no more, as Roe v. Wade was just recently overturned. And so this means that those seeking an abortion will have to do so in a state that does not have any regulations or restrictions on abortion, or they could get one in a state that does, provided that they fall into some exemption categories, for example, rape or incest. But many states here in the U.S. have these trigger laws that go into effect. And there's also states that completely prohibit it in any case. And there's states like California that are going to keep access to it, as that is a very democratic state, a very blue state. And blue states are more likely to keep this in effect than red states, as you would expect how it works with politics.
Now, what's happening in your state specifically? South Carolina, it's to my understanding a red state?
Yeah, South Carolina is a red state. We have Governor Henry McMaster, who reacted to that decision today. He issued a statement shortly after the decision came down. I'll read you just a little bit of what our governor said to give you a sense, because most Republican governors are going to issue a statement with very similar talking points. So Henry McMaster said today that the Supreme Court ruling is a resounding victory for the Constitution and those who have worked for so many years to protect the lives of the most vulnerable among us. He says, by the end of the day, we will file motions so that the Fatal Heartbeat Act will go into effect in South Carolina, and immediately begin working with members of the General Assembly to determine the best solution for protecting the lives of unborn South Carolinians. So basically what that means is, with this federally overturned, South Carolina is going to move forward with the Fatal Heartbeat Bill, which really prohibits abortion on a very large scale. Initially, when this bill was brought up, there was no exemptions for rape or incest in 2019, but I found today that in 2021, those were added back. So we do have certain things where you can go around this. Also, North Carolina, neighboring us, they don't have a whole lot of restrictions on abortion, and they are led by a Democratic governor. So it's likely that access will remain in North Carolina.
Jackson, there's going to be a lot that we'll keep coming back to you about regarding this case. It's, a landmark decision. Jackson Gosnell, our US correspondent, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Leo.
As we mentioned before, reaction is continuing to flood in here at home. Democratic Labor Party MP Bernie Finn, who was expelled from the Liberals for his anti-abortion views, has rejoiced on social media, saying today was a monumentous day for humanity. Finn, previously said rape was no justification for abortion, according to The Guardian, and also said he was praying for abortion to be banned in Victoria. Those comments were what got him expelled. ACT Labor Senator and Finance Minister Katie Gallagher has said the decision was really disappointing and it's one that women will feel right around the world. An independent MP, Allegra Spender, also spoke about the landmark decision, saying women and girls need access to safe and legal abortions. They need control over their bodies. She added that this change in the USA is terrible and around the world we must guard our hard-fought rights. Well, above the news tonight, anger is growing amongst crossbenchers in both houses after Anthony Albanese announced he would cut the amount of personal staff allocated to MPs and senators on the crossbench from 4 to just 1, in addition to 4 electorate staff. David Pocock, One Nation, Jackie Lambie Network and independent MPs have all condemned the move. Kooyong MP Monique Ryan saying the measure is an attack on the crossbench and the move is utterly at odds with previous statements from the Prime Minister about working with independents and minor parties. The move angering some so much that there have been threats to block and stall Labor legislation in Parliament. Political reporter Roman McKinnon has more.
There's been a major blow to the crossbench after Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced late on Friday night that crossbench staffers will be dramatically decreased. What this means is they'll only be allowed 1 staffer instead of 4. It's definitely an interesting decision by the Prime Minister, as multiple Teal independents have condemned Anthony Albanese's actions. Dr. Monique Ryan, who holds the federal seat of Kooyong in Melbourne, who ousted former Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, says it is a, quote, attack on the crossbench. Also, Zali Stengel, who holds Warringah in Sydney, hit out saying Anthony Albanese has no respect for the crossbench and a, quote, attempt to gag the crossbench. Being an independent or someone on the crossbench can lead to many challenges after this announcement, with nowhere near the amount of staff the major parties have. Now, a typical advisory for an independent or someone on the crossbench will include a media and policy advisor, chief of staff and speechwriter, which cover the parliament issues, and electoral staff, which cover their local seats issues. It's not just the House of Representatives dealing with this blow. The upper house has also had to swallow these staffing cuts, including anger from some senators, including Jackie Lambie, David Pocock and Pauline Hanson. No doubt the members on the crossbench are severely angry about this move by the Prime Minister, with some saying it is a slap on the face and a, quote, attack on democracy. The Greens released a statement saying it is, quote, it is unbelievable and so short-sighted that the government would cut crossbench staff when the public has just delivered the biggest crossbench representation ever. A Labor spokesperson said the staff allocation was reviewed and reallocated after every election. This may be very hard for Labor to now pass legislation with a narrow majority of 77 seats in the lower house and turn back from the crossbench even. But would they support the opposition and the coalition? Do you agree with the Prime Minister's decision to cut crossbench advisory? Let us know your thoughts on social media at SIXNewsAU or email us, contact@SIXNewsAU.com.
And for more on what the House of Reps and the Senate will look like with all the new MPs and senators, check out the latest edition of Spin Check here on 6 News. That's available on our YouTube channel right now. A New South Wales Liberal MP has used parliamentary privilege to accuse party members of corruption. According to The Guardian, Castle Hill MP Ray Williams has sensationally claimed that senior members of the Liberal Party were paid significant funds by a prominent property developer to install new councillors on the Hill Shire Council in an attempt to get development applications through. Premier Dominic Perrottet says he's referred to the matter to ICAC, asking them to examine the allegations. It comes as a new 6 News viewer poll on Twitter shows the vast majority believe corruption at a state, territory and federal level is at least somewhat a problem. It also comes after the Crime and Corruption Commission, or CCC, said lobbying in Queensland had surged since the Palaszczuk government was re-elected in 2020. That increases the risk of corruption. New ministers, including a deputy premier, tonight being confirmed in Victoria following the resignation of 4 senior ministers. James Merlino, Lisa Neville, Martin Foley and Martin Puglisi have all resigned from the cabinet and have retired from Parliament altogether. But while there's a lot of claims about rats leaving a sinking ship, is there more to the story that meets the eye, and could it all just be a media beat-up? Rod Lincoln Holmes has the details.
A government in chaos or business as usual for a party heading into an election. The resignation of 4 senior Victorian Labor MPs from the cabinet and the retirement from state politics has surprised some, with new details tonight being revealed on their replacements. It means 16 Labor MPs won't be recontesting in the November state election after retiring or losing pre-selection compared to 6 Liberals. Some have claimed the MPs are leaving a sinking ship, and the Liberals say Labor is becoming a one-Dan show. Deputy James Merlino is the most senior of the 4. He led the state while Daniel Andrews was injured last year, while also being Education Minister amid remote learning being imposed. He's also been the member for Monbulk since 2002, a total of 20 years. Only days before revealing he wouldn't seek re-election, he was telling reporters this.
I'm the member for Monbulk, I'm the candidate for Monbulk, and I've got a lot of energy for the contest at the end of the year.
Martin Foley has been the member for Albert Park since 2007. He's also been the Health Minister since September 2020, appearing at press conferences while lockdowns were introduced and right throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Like James Merlino, Lisa Neville has been an MP for 20 years. More recently, she was the State Police Minister, while also battling illness. Martin Puglisi has been in Parliament since 2006, but his electorate has been abolished ahead of the November state election. It was reported earlier this month by The Age that he would move to the upper house and recontest the election. He's now told 6 News that the one thing that has changed since then is his mind.
All of these things are opportunities, and renewal, fresh legs, as they say, a new team, fresh team, that's a good thing.
Jacinta Allen will become the new Deputy Premier. Like Daniel Andrews, she is from the Labor left grouping. Some say Allen is now in prime position to become the next Victorian Premier.
As the Senior Minister for the Right, to make it very clear that I am a very strong supporter of Jacinta Allen to be the Deputy Premier.
Ahead of the November 26 state election, the Victorians Party has unveiled its candidates. The new centrist party aiming to hold the balance of power after the election, with the Greens and possibly Independents also a chance to pick up lower house seats. The Liberals have now launched a new website, Remember This November, highlighting issues like lockdowns that occurred under the Andrews government. The website states that Melbourne spent a total of 262 days in lockdown, something they claim is a world record, even though the ABC already found that a city in Chile spent 287 days with stay-at-home orders, and what counted as an official lockdown wasn't clear-cut. Tonight, outgoing Liberal MP Tim Smith is facing growing backlash online after telling 6 News founder Leonardo Puglisi to be very careful in a response to a tweet that directly quoted him, the response being seen as an apparent threat to take legal action. Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
And in addition to the Victorians Party, another new party is also looking for candidates. The Freedom Party of Victoria, led by former UAP and later Independent Senate candidate Morgan C. Jonas, is attempting to be registered by the VEC. Earlier I caught up with the party's deputy leader, Aidan McLindon, a former LNP MP, Queensland Party founder, Katter's Australian Party state leader and Family First candidate, for an exclusive interview.
Our objective is not so much, every party forms to get people elected, absolutely, but I think our focus is more of having an influence in the outcome. And whilst you have these minor parties have a lot of similarities as well, but you would see that the major parties have a lot of similarities as well. Kevin Rudd could have easily been a Liberal Party Prime Minister, and Malcolm Turnbull equally could have been a Labor Party Prime Minister. So I think the difference between the Liberal Labor is becoming thinner and thinner. So I think all political parties, to some degree, have that relevance or that point of difference struggle. And I would say that in Australia, it's personality politics has probably played a much greater role than policy-based politics. Is probably where it should be, the battle of ideas and good policy. But I think what we saw, especially in the federal election, was probably an anti-Scott Morrison vote rather than a pro-Anthony Albanese vote. We sort of need a Menzies 2.0 or something to happen, and I think that will happen in probably as short as 3 to 5 years.
How can you explain to potential voters why they should vote you if your votes might just be trying to influence something you're not actually going to get a seat, as by your own admission?
Well, I think the outcome, as I said, having our objective is to have influence in the process. If you win seats as an added bonus, that's fantastic, and ultimately that's every party's goal. But also, equally, every party has to channel their preferences somewhere. I mean, the Greens will, always, more often than not, if not always, preference them to Labor. So, equally, the Greens you could suggest that, they only exist to channel to Labor, but they actually influences Labor's agenda. And as you see Labor have more and more influence from the Greens, equally, there are other minor parties that would have influence on the Conservative side of politics or the Liberal side of politics.
Do you think that's fair that voters can vote above the line for a party, say the Freedom Party, and then, probably wouldn't be aware where their preferences are going because of these, backroom preference flowing deals?
I think you're absolutely correct. I think the backroom deals that have been happening historically are at best unethical. I think we need to enter a new paradigm where we have ethical parties operating in a block, where they're transparent, where they can tell the public exactly where their preferences are going to go. And the Freedom Party will absolutely do that. We need to, if we want to change the way governance is done, we need to look at our own backyards in terms of how political organisations work.
If you believe it's unethical, as you said there, do you support dumping it like every single other house in the entire country, state, territory, federal, does not have any way for parties to control preferences except for the Victorian Upper House? Do you support dumping group voting?
Look, I think the problem is, what are you going to replace it with? In terms of replacing it with a better system, is there scope for it? Absolutely. I'm not sure what that system is. It can be, when you've got a system that can catapult somebody into the parliament on 0.2% of the vote, then clearly it would need reviewing.
We've got more on that on our website as well, SIXNewsAU.com, including a dedicated page for the upcoming Victorian election. Again, SIXNewsAU.com/Victoria-Decides-Election-2022. A survey from the Herald Sun has revealed that rule changes, ticketing and transport are the main things deterring footy fans from attending AFL games. The paper reports that the high price of food and drinks at stadiums was another major concern, while internal research from the AFL also revealed digital membership, ticket buying and access to tickets were the biggest grievances on supporters' list. The average attendance this year is down to just over 30,000, reportedly the lowest in decades, excluding of course 2020 and 2021. Where there were some major disruptions. Well, changing pace now, and iconic chocolate Toblerone is going to have to remove the word Switzerland from its packaging because, well, it's no longer to be made in Switzerland, at least partly. While they are still continuing, under Swiss law, they have to change their name because in Slovakia, they're opening up a new production site. Now, you can see here, I've got one here. By the way, I'm not being paid to say this, but who doesn't like a Toblerone? It says of Switzerland at the front. It's very hard to see on this camera, but it does say that. They're going to have to remove that, and the company says they're changing that from 2023. And so all these with of Switzerland on the front, they're going to have to be removed. Don't ask me why I got 4 Toblerones, by the way. Fact check, I can confirm it does say of Switzerland. If you want me to have one, I'll have one later. But they're going to have to make that change. Now, as I said, it comes into effect 2023. But yeah, under Swiss law, they have to change it. However, the company is stressing that they are still continuing some production in Switzerland, just not 100% production in Switzerland. So there we go. I might have that off air or during this promo break, because now here's Ivan and Melly with what's coming up later tonight on WAME News.
Thanks, Leo. Tonight on WAMN News, law enforcement under attack. Juvenile crime in WA's north continue to pose a major challenge to embattled officers.
100 billion litres. A top-up to WA's water supply is on the way with a new desalination plant.
Fievel's shocking behaviour revealed in Parliament's report detailing sexual assault and harassment allegations.
Hundreds of Perth foodies queued to get a taste of American fast food chain In-N-Out Burgers. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment. Join us tonight on the WAMN News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Alright, thanks both Ivan and Melly there. Now to tomorrow's weather forecast right across the country. Brisbane partly cloudy, 23 degrees, showers in Sydney 19, Canberra getting up to a top of 12 degrees, only starting the day at -2. Melbourne also getting up to 12 degrees, 11 in Hobart, 14 in Adelaide, 19 in Alice Springs, 22 in Perth, and in Darwin heavy clouds but still a warm top of 31. Before we go tonight, recapping our top stories, in the United States Supreme Court has voted to remove the constitutional right to abortion, striking down the landmark Roe v. Wade case and paving the way for states to fully ban abortion, including in cases of rape and incest, a move welcomed by Victorian MP Bernie Finn, but one that's disappointing for Finance Minister Katie Gallagher. And just finally, you may remember that in March we mentioned, we're changing studios, we're having to leave, it's going to be demolished, etc., etc. And we look back at the history of this studio, which we've been in for 2 years. We started in March 2020. Obviously, it's June 2022 now, and eagle-eyed viewers might note we are still here, which. It does sound odd, but suddenly it's kind of changed. So what happened? Pretty much straight after our broadcast on Sunday night, whichever March it was, I think it was late March earlier this year, we were informed that this place was staying for a few more months, and it was an extension. Now, we were initially supposed to be out in October last year. There's been extension after extension after extension, because this isn't at our house, if you're unaware. This isn't a proper studio. This is a room rented out in a warehouse, which is effectively abandoned. There's holes in the roof above me. We've had mice running through. There are pigeons everywhere. It's quite awful. It's run down. Anyway, obviously it's going to get demolished. There's a shocker. And they are changing the locks pretty much straight after we get off air tonight. So this is it in terms of our broadcast from our Richmond studios here in Melbourne. And so what this essentially means is we don't have a studio. Now, obviously we're gonna keep airing. We're gonna not go anywhere, but we don't actually have a proper news studio to do news in. So we kind of need your support here. We do need your support. So, and I said this last time in March, but I'll say it again. Patreon.com/SIXNewsAU, just $4 a month. You'll get exclusive benefits, quite a lot of stuff actually. So you'll get early access to major announcements. For example, our announcement of our interview with Prime Minister Scott Morrison, that came first on Patreon. You'll also get access to East Plus West, our joint podcast from 6 News and WAMN News. Great stuff there. I did that with Ivan Long, who you saw a few moments ago, from WAMN. But again, you're supporting independent journalism, and that's really the main thing there. So look, again, we don't really have a studio going forward from tonight. I don't know why I looked at my wrist there. I do not have a watch on. But yeah, straight after we get off air, that's it for us. So any support appreciated. Patreon.com/6NewsAU. Again, just $4 a month, much cheaper than any streaming service or major newspaper subscription. So we appreciate your support as well. Of course, we're going to have 24/7 headlines on social media, our website as well. That's not going anywhere. 6 News isn't shutting down. But in terms of where we deliver the Sunday night broadcast for you, which is always the latest headlines, as you've seen tonight, we don't know. God willing, we'll be back on air next week. But we shall have to see. So that is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can, as I mentioned, stay up to date with the latest headlines by heading to our website, 6newsau.com, and by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Lit. Just search 6NewsAU to find us. For the final time here, and I'm not going to say that again, in the Richmond studios, I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Have a great night.